Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the First Class, Second Place podcast. I'm your host, Jason Enrique, and with me today, I got my very special guest, Susan Ramirez. She is an instructor, choreographer, fitness trainer, actress, singer. She's everything. Jackie of all trades, actually. Anyway, Susan, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming along. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, so let me ask you the question that I start off with the interview with everybody that comes onto my show. Tell me the beginning of your Jersey story.
The beginning of my Jersey story. So I was born and raised in Jersey. I'm a Jersey girl. And I was born in Paterson, New Jersey, was raised in Kearney and Belleville, grew up in Belleville for the most part, graduated from Belleville High, and pretty much been there since then. So now I go between like Belleville North area. I work between like my alma mater, and I do the choreography there.
Mm-hmm.
I actually started my journey from the arts in the Belleville Theater Arts program, and now I actually get the pleasure to actually choreograph their shows. So it's full circle moment.
Isn't that awesome? I love those full circle moments. Like I'll tell you, one full circle moment for me, and you know it's pretty minuscule, but it still matters to me.
Absolutely.
I've been all over Jersey, but I was born in Teaneck, and the first house that I ever lived in is in Hackensack, and ironically, fast forward to now, when I moved into my very first apartment on my own, which is where I still live today, it's actually on the same street, maybe 2 blocks away from the house that I actually lived in as a baby. Yeah. So I feel like I was doing a whole bunch of factors of like, you know, which place should I look at, which apartment should I move into, and to me, I took it as a sign that, all right, let me just, you know, this is basically a new beginning for me. Yeah. So let me and it's actually in the same area where I came into this world. So I figured that it was pretty serendipitous, for lack of a better term.
That is dope. Yeah.
And as far as like all your arts and everything, but I want to go back to the beginning. Like,
sure.
It seems like you do it all. You do singing, you do dancing, you do acting. But if you go really, really back to the beginning of all, what would you say is like the number one thing that was your passion that basically set it off above all else?
I think when I was younger, I always had a fascination for like the Disney films, like during that whole time, like Aladdin, Little Mermaid, and Pocahontas. I would just sit there in front of the screen like this and just be like so like invested and just awed. I'm like, what is this? Like all these animation, all these colors, and the singing, and the little dancing, the choreography, and all these different moments. I think that was like my first like artistic love and like the birth of my artistic kind of like passion pretty much.
Right.
And then as I grew older, I started getting into like the plays in elementary school. We actually had like mandatory plays. And in 6th grade, we had to do like pretty much like they created like their own like original play basically. Right. And we were all in it. And I remember when it came out, like, I was all in it. Like, all the 6th graders were like, okay, this is something I have to do. And I was just like, I would show up and there would be like, lonely cries, the pain, the sorrow. And then I don't remember the rest. But I remember my 6th grade teacher laughing, like the 2 6th grade teachers laughing. And I was just like, why are you laughing? And then they were like, just because you're so into it. And it's just, you know, I guess it's not, you're not used to seeing like, you know, a 6th grader just understand like, you know, that whole thing.
Is that what maybe feel like maybe they drew that to you because you were actually like sticking out above everybody else that was in your class?
I think so in a way. Like, I think at that time, like I was just so confused. Like I was just like heartbroken little 6th grader. Like, why are they laughing at my performance? You know, but you know, you look back at it now and it's just like, you think of like when you see like a little kid like super into it and you're just smiling with joy no matter what it is. And it could be drawing, it could be art, it could be like them doing a dance, like if they're giving full facials, or if they're singing and they're just like doing all this very artistic decisions, or they're like acting and crying and stuff, then it warms your heart and it makes you giggle and it makes you laugh, but not at like a ridicule way, but as like a fun and like, wow, that's like really, really cool type of way.
What was the one project that you did that really took it over the top for you, that you wanted, that it made you realize, you know what, this is what I want to do with my life?
Yeah, actually, it wasn't even a project. So we were sitting, I was in 8th grade, and it was the end of the year in June, and we were all done with our papers and our finals and all that kind of stuff. And my 8th grade teacher had put on Phantom of the Opera. And it was like the movie with Gerard Butler and Emmy Rossum.
Okay, yeah, I remember that one. I think that's the only Phantom of the Opera that I saw. I never saw it on Broadway or anything like that, but I do remember the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. So he had put that on, and I just remember having that same feeling that I had as a kid when I was watching the Disney films. I saw like Emmy Rossum come on, and she had like the long curly hair, and she was singing these high notes, and she was on stage, and she was like, the costumes were so beautiful, and just like the essence of the movie was so like compelling for me. And I looked at the screen and I had that feeling. I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to do that. And it's like I saw me in her, like I saw like the curly hair, and at the time when I was younger I was singing soprano, so that means like a higher range type of singing. So I was like, she sounds like me, she looks like me, like oh my goodness, like and then our teacher actually took us to see the show, and that was actually my first Broadway show, was Phantom of the Opera.
So you you were actually on Broadway?
No.
You were just as
he took us like as a school trip, like a field trip. Yeah. So we had seen the movie, and I think he surprised us by taking us there. And I just remember like being in like tears of just like, oh my God,
you were
like
in
all
absolute
this.
awe.
Yeah. And I was just like, oh my God, like this is a career. Like people do this for a living. Like that's insane. Like I can do this. It's so amazing. So yeah. So then ever since that moment, I was just like, I want to do theater. Like I want to sing, and I want to dance, and I want to act, and I want to do it all at the same time. And I want that same kind of experience that these actors and actresses had on that stage. And that's kind of where it grew and took off for me.
Right. And what about your background? Like, what are you?
Like a nationality?
Yeah.
My mom is Brazilian and my dad's a Salvadorian.
Okay, all right. And the reason I ask that is because I feel like in a lot of Hispanic households, or even in your case a little bit, it's either two things that are going to happen. One, they want you to be safe and play it safe and do the whole thing where, like, you go to school, get your education, and, just make sure you provide for the family. Or two, if they see that you're actually talented and they're absolutely blown away by your talent, then they'll do everything and anything to the point where they'll make sure that you succeed. But sometimes you can go to the extreme. There's no middle area. There's no gray. It's either one or the other. Which one would you say that you experienced?
I would say a little bit of both, because my family definitely wanted me to go into, especially my grandparents, because they're more a little bit past the baby boomer age, a little bit more traditional in 1940s. So they're like, you're gonna sing and dance? Like, do you get paid for that? Like, is that a real thing?
Yeah.
To this day, like, I still explain it.
That's always one of the questions that even still to this day, the older ones ask,
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure I remember my mother, she actually asked me when I started getting into the podcast game. It was like, oh, is there real money in that?
Like they don't think anything besides like lawyer, teaching, nurse, or like anything besides, like, I guess what they did when they were younger. Because obviously there was acting and singing and dancing back at that time, but like you said, like more in like Latino households, it was just like you had to be one of these 5 different career options that we give you. And there was no going about it, or you would be shunned from the family, pretty much.
So, and it could be tough, and I guess coming from a Hispanic family myself, it's sometimes they can be your harshest critics. Like, I'll tell you the story right now. I've actually told it before on my show, where there was a moment in my time where I wanted to be a movie director.
Oh.
Yeah, and maybe that's still a pipe dream, maybe whatever. But well, that's another talk for another day. But the point that I'm trying to get at is, I remember my family having a discussion with me, talking about how, they're not saying that they didn't believe in me, but they were basically saying in so many words that, you should definitely consider doing something else because you never know if it may work out. And at the time, not realizing it, I took that as an affront. I took that as they really didn't believe in my talent. And I felt like they should have been a little bit more supportive in that aspect, or at least try to help me show the ropes.
Exactly.
But, and that's when I got discouraged. That's when I got discouraged, and I think that was one the main focal point as to why I never got it off the ground. But I'm learning now more than ever that it's never too late. I haven't started it yet. I'm not even really considering it. But what's different now compared to how I was younger is that I'm leaving more of an open mind.
Yeah. And you have to be completely open to changing. And the pandemic taught us that too. It's like we were just talking about it before. It's like the pandemic really showed that a lot of the jobs that we had, like, we were replaceable in, and that anything could happen at any single moment. And we were just talking about the whole unemployment thing, how people were just rocking with that and just living their best lives.
And what's crazy also is that I remember when 2019 was just about to finish, everybody had that mindset, like, it's a brand new decade, brand new year. Everybody's like, 2020 is going to be my year. And I feel like everybody was going to go full. Yeah, exactly. And then Mother Nature was like, hold on, everybody take a deep breath and relax for a second.
Slow your roll.
Exactly.
Everyone, slow your roll.
But you know what? I think it was needed because as humans, we're so fickle all the time that we never really stop to really stop and smell the roses per se.
Yeah. Even East Coast too. East Coast is just like super, super fast, and we are like the hustle, like area, like
Right.
everybody, like the tri-state area, we're hustle this, because I hustle.
I mean,
like that's everyone's theme song. I'm a hustler, hustler. Like any type of music that's just like get your game, get your money, secure the bag. Like that's trending for us, and that's relatable to us. So we have that instilled and programmed in us in a way that we always have to constantly go until one day, like you said, it just kind of shut down, and everybody was like, whoa.
Yeah. And you being in the arts, when that happened, how did that affect you?
Oh, massively. The entertainment industry was just shut down. Like, we didn't know what to do. We didn't know what was going to happen. We kept the faith in everything that, that we could have had. But I think as a theater person, we're kind of like, when you are on stage, I guess, and when you train in theater, you learn how to adapt to a lot of things because it's live theater.
Yeah.
So anything could happen at any given moment. You might forget your line, you might forget a dance, somebody, maybe your partner maybe forgets something, or maybe like you're singing, you're acting, and you're dancing, and you just forget anything at all. But you have to keep going. Like the show must go on, as we say.
Right.
So I think that's actually the mentality that helped me through the entire pandemic, was like, there's a lot of things that are going to happen in life. And even though I had this set plan that I wanted to do, and I was going to, I think I was like booked on some tours, and I was going to travel, and I was going to do a lot of different things, and then everything just shut down. I'm like, well, how can I treat this as a lesson? How can I treat this as like, what is this trying to teach me? What is this trying to teach us, like as a humanity, and us as like creatives too?
Right.
Is that we need to be able to adapt. And we need to be able to kind of slow down too, and just kind of take a step back. Maybe we're not going to be active in front. Maybe we're not going to be on stages or traveling, but maybe this is the time to work on your reels, and this is the time to work on the backside of it, or like the kind of just like more of like, what's the word that I'm looking for?
Consistent,
yeah, but it's something more of like not the being in front, but
I think I know what you're trying to get at, but I'm kind of
what's
drawing a
the
blank right now.
What's the word?
Wow, even on a podcast, you're still performing.
No, exactly. But yeah, I was gonna say.
Oh my God, it's gonna kill me until the rest of the episode, until we actually finally stop, and then afterwards it's gonna come to me. I know it's gonna happen.
I think more of just like, instead of just being focused on like booking jobs and being out and being seen, more of just like, well, how can I build my brand? How can I create those reels? And not just, Instagram reels, but like for like artists, you have your professional stuff. Yeah, your professional reels, like your acting reel, your singing reel, which I never took the time to do.
Right.
Or I never really learned how to do editing or camera work or photography. But those things are super important when you're an artist and a creative. Like, you need to learn how to take your own pictures, right? If you can't book a photographer, you need to have your own studio set up. You need to be able to have those things at hand and at the ready, just so in case anything shuts down, you're an entrepreneur and you just kind of just like fix and focus and get right back up, and you're not affected by it.
Right. And you're absolutely right about that, because before I got into the podcast game, I simply just thought it was just get behind the mic and just talk your shit. And now this is actually the fun part. What we're doing right now, we're just talking one another in front of a microphone, in front of a camera. But the real crux of everything, where everything matters, is the before and after. Like everything that we had to do to set up before everything, that's the real important stuff. This is the fun part. And then afterwards, the post, production, whatever you want to call it, that's a big part of the process as well, So right now we're just having fun, but like the real work comes before and after.
The production,
and I feel, and I feel like that's the same thing with any kind of art form, especially you being a stage performer. I mean, you guys are constantly practicing to the point where you're killing yourself mentally and draining and physically and so on and so forth, all for that one moment where like it all comes down to this, where it's 0 hour, the lights are shining on you, all eyes are on you, and you better make it count.
Yeah. Because everyone's experience in that audience is different. Some people have seen it thousands of times. Other people have never seen it before. And you could be affecting that person like I was affected with Phantom of the Opera, or I was affected with Disney and stuff. This might be somebody's first connection or first breakthrough of like what they want to do for a living, or what they can find in a relationship, or what they can connect to with a family member, and they can create that memory and bring them to shows and different things like that. So you always have to look at it like that. It's a first experience for somebody, and even for yourself. Not every audience is the same, and not every moment that you perform is going to feel the same too. So it's always ever changing, constantly flowing. And instead of trying to resist it, we just kind of have to fall into the flow and just rock with that.
I'll tell you what, it really is a good feeling when, piggyback on what you just said right now about like, having that other person that's gonna like see you and what you do and what you're passionate about, and then afterwards it's something clicks in their head that they want to do something like that, or just do something with their life in general. And that was further proof of that for me when I had my friend Mercedes. Shout out to Mercedes. She reached out to me one day because she just wanted to pick my brain about podcasting and how to get it off the ground and so on and so forth, and just pointers here and there. I decided to go the extra mile and actually have her on as my very first guest host. Basically, I put her in the hot seat and made her drive the ship, so that she could get a feel for it, get her feet wet, and see if this is really her, for her or not. It's almost like if you want to be in the NBA and Phil Jackson says, "Here, show me what you could do with the basketball," and then we could talk. Yeah. So, but like the point is that was a good feeling to know that I actually, for lack of a better term, inspired somebody to do something, that something just clicked in their head, and and because that was something that I was looking for all my life. And the way that I also approached it is when I started this thing, nobody helped me out. I didn't know who to talk to. I didn't know where to start, so on and so forth. I kind of just did it on my own. So now I'm at the mindset where like I want to give people the opportunity that I wasn't presented with.
As you should. That's
the way that I look at it. And it's a great feeling. And, that's still where I'm at right now as far as the podcast goes. I'm, always having fun. I'm going to do this and that. But if I could really help those people out, and if they happen to be more successful than me, so be it.
I love that. And I love that you did that too, because not a lot of people are open to challenge, and not a lot of people are open to being challenged as well. So the fact that you were like, okay, well, here's the mic. Show me what you got, and some people might take that the wrong way. Some people might freeze up, or some people might know what to do. Like, oh, no, I'm not ready. But in that sense, like, you need to be ready. Like, is this what you want? It's kind of like life. Life is a constant test of what you want and what you manifest. Like, okay, well, you want to manifest this, that, and the third. Here it is, or here's an opportunity for you to get it. Are you going to take it? Oh, no, maybe not right now. Or maybe I'm not going to study right now for that thing. Or maybe I'm not going to invest myself into this right now. But then you keep saying that over and over again. And then soon you create that pattern where you're straying away from what you really want.
And I know what that feels like. I went through that pattern as well. And it was up to me to break it.
Yeah.
I won't get too much into it because I feel like I spoke about it a lot on my podcast. You can check out older episodes you want, but it's there. My whole story is there.
No, for sure.
Yeah, but as far as like other projects, right now we're in Jersey Media Studios, and it's also a big reason as to why I wanted you to come on the show because, along with the whole brand of Jersey Media, it comes along with Therapy Without a Degree. Shout out to Joe and Zane.
Shout out.
And I really became a fan of the series Therapy Without a Degree, and episode 2 was the one that really hit home for me because that was the one that was the most relatable one. But I also felt like your episode, The Star, where you were on the star of episode 3, I actually related to that character as well because that was actually a good talking point when I first met Joe and Zane about how having that support from people that you consider your family that are not blood. And I feel like we now live in a time more than ever where we realize that sometimes you got to realize that the most toxic people in the world are actually the ones that are closest to you as family wise. And I'm in that same boat right now. Like, listen, I know that there's this whole Hispanic stigma of like, listen, whatever you do, if you're going to go to therapy, if you're going to do a podcast, whatever, don't tell anybody what happens in the family, but fuck it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to get spicy with it.
Let's get real with it.
I mean, so basically that episode resonated with me because I actually have family members where I've actually kept my distance for years now.
Yeah.
And I'll even be real with you. My father's passing was 5 years this Saturday. It was a 5-year anniversary of his passing. And I decided to personally just not be involved with the family at this particular time because unfortunately there's some family members that don't add real value to my life. I consider them toxic.
Yeah.
And I feel like in this trajectory of life that I'm on right now, I can't afford to have that like a chink in my chain or anything like that. No. So basically I'm still on that trajectory. But the point is that I'm making is that sometimes you have to just realize who is necessary in your life and who isn't. And, even though they're family, it doesn't mean that you're going to cut them off forever. They're still going to be a part of family no matter what, but they just also need to realize that, listen, I just don't have any time for you in my life right now. But that doesn't mean that I'm holding it against you. That doesn't mean that you're my enemy. I just need to do this for myself, and I hope that you would respect that. But sometimes people, they take it the wrong way, and then afterwards they lash out or, they think otherwise, and then they feel like, like I'll even tell you right now, as it felt uncomfortable for me to not be involved with the family this past weekend for the anniversary of my father's passing. And in my head, I just kept playing in my head about what my father used to say all the time. He was like, oh, and that's more important than being with your family. Like that was playing in my head all day, and it kind of haunted me. But like I said, I just feel like I still have to go on this trajectory to make the necessary steps to better myself, because I feel if I break that just for the sake of worrying about others, then I feel like I'm going to have to go back to square one.
Absolutely, yeah. And thank you for sharing that. And thank you for sharing that with me. And thank you for sharing it with everyone, too.
Absolutely.
Because I think that's really important for everybody to know. I went through something very similar as well. Like when I was growing up and going back into the arts, I had a parent that was actually like guilt shaming me for it and be like, oh, why are you going into that? You're not going to succeed at that. Like, why do you think that's going to be a real career? You don't make money out of that. And then I would hear from my grandparents, too. He's like, oh, well, is that a real thing? Like, when are you going to get serious about your life?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
the
wow.
tricky thing is that they want the best for you, but it's a little misguided.
Yeah, they just don't know how to kind of, yeah, like you said, it's a little bit misguided, and it could come off and rub off in a certain type of way. And especially if you're not strong minded, or if you're not strong enough to kind of deal with it, that can break a lot lot of people. Right. But I used it as a fuel. I was like, oh, you don't think I am going to do something?
And that was actually going to be my next question.
That was me.
Shout
I was
out Usher.
like, bet. And that's what you got to go through, too.
And that was actually going to be my next question, because I was going to ask you, and you pretty much answered it, that are you one of those people where like you feel like you need the support or else you're not going to succeed? Or are you that type of person that takes all that negative energy and turn it into something that's going to help you succeed? Because I'll tell you right now, I'm actually the former. I feel like I need to have, everybody needs to be a fan of me in order for me to ascend to the heights that I need to. I just never had that gene per se of I need the doubters so I can prove them wrong. I just never had that gene in me, and I don't know, how to go about it. So it could be tricky at times. Like if I feel like I'm having all the support in the world, but then there's just that one person that decides to be a little bit of a critic, it can try to throw off my balance a little bit, and then afterwards I have to, re-engage.
Yeah. No, I think that's us as humans too. Like we can have 1,000 positive things that we can look at, but that one thing will just kind of pull into everything. Like, oh, well, now everything's bad. Now I'm only thinking about this thing. Because I think sometimes even like humans in general, they're like unhealed, or when you're not doing the spiritual work or shadow work, like we can be very pessimistic creatures. Like take for example, I like to use this example, like when when you're driving past a car accident on the road, why does the traffic slow down? Right? Because everyone's breaking their neck and looking at the accident as opposed to actually helping, or as opposed to actually going through and just going about their day.
Or in this day and age, they film it and put it on social media.
They film it and post it on social media, which was my next thing. Like when people are fighting on the street, they're filming that. When people, everything with all the rest that's happening right now, instead of like trying to help somebody get out of a fight, they're filming it. Or someone's about to jump to their death, God forbid, and they're filming it. Like, can someone talk to this person?
Right.
But that's just humanity, unfortunately.
And then afterwards, once you put it out there in the atmosphere and in the internet and so on and so forth, then you're basically leaving to everybody interpretation. Like for instance, so the unfortunate passing of PNB Rock, the murder when he was at Roscoe Chicken and Waffles.
Yes.
And there was two things that stuck out to me. One, we're actually seeing his body, and I'm thinking, why isn't anybody helping this guy instead of just filming it and putting it on social media?
That's exactly what I thought.
Yeah. And two, now everybody wants to be a critic and everybody wants to get involved and blame the baby mother because of posting the location of where they were. And now people feel like they now have a target on their back, specifically entertainers, in order to do that. And it just like, everything gets so muddled. And afterwards, that's when you start getting into the, subjects that aren't even even worthy of talking about, or not even part of the conversation. Like I'll give you a perfect example. So I love sports. I'm a New York Jets fan, unfortunately. And
it's all good.
Yeah, it's okay.
I'm wearing green today too.
Oh.
See, I was channeling your energy.
I love it. So the head coach, Robert Saleh, he's Muslim.
Okay.
And as from a football standpoint, he hasn't been doing very good. His record is only like 5-13, so he has a little bit more to he has to do a lot of winning in order to prove a lot of people wrong. But I actually saw some things on social media where because a little bit of his backstory, before he became a football coach, what actually inspired him was his brother was actually in the towers at 9/11 when the towers went down and we were attacked. Now, luckily, his brother was fine; nothing happened to him, but he was in the towers when it happened. And that actually made Robert Saleh, Coach Saleh, it inspired him to realize that, what I'm doing right now is not what I want to do. He wanted to pursue a career in coaching and in sports, and he's now a head coach. It took him like a number of years to finally get to where he did, and now he's a head coach in the NFL, which is like, there's only 32 jobs of these. So, kudos to him in that regard.
Heck yeah.
So so the first game of the season was on 9/11. It was the anniversary, and the Jets didn't do very good. They played very poorly. They lost the game. And then in the comments, everybody's doing the whole thing about like fire Salah, so on and so forth. And then they were doing the whole 9/11 memorial. And then someone in the comments was like, "Oh, he cares. Who cares? He's Muslim." So that's my point. Like, you're leaving the door open for so many people to just like spew anything that they want that comes out. Stream of consciousness is very dangerous, and it has nothing to do with it. Like, why does his religion have to matter about what happened with the game? I mean, right there, you're just showing your true colors, that you're just a shitty person.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think the internet leaves a lot of openness for that, but it kind of goes back into just having that strong mindset, and also to feel like those things that fuel you, right? Like, there's a lot of people giving you negatives, or there's a lot of people that may not support you, even like your family members or your friends, or people that you thought you were friends, or colleagues that you thought they would kind of just like support you on your journey aside from where you work maybe. And you just kind of like, not so much that you need that kind of negativity to form into fuel, but you have to stay laser focused on your goal, and you have to stay laser focused on what you want to achieve, and you have to protect your peace at first, and going back to with your family, the anniversary for this past weekend, it's just, it all comes down to protecting your peace. And I don't think that was something that was taught in like earlier generations, maybe even like for like our families and stuff. It was more of just like families first, families blood, it is what it is. And even if they did something malicious towards you, they're still your family. You just got to suck it up and take care of that.
I mean, I'll tell you right now, one of the stigmas that I talk about all the time on my show, because I'm a big advocate of mental health, and I'm a very big proponent of professional health and psychotherapy. When I decided to look for professional help, what is the first thing that the family's going to tell you when you let them know? Oh, don't tell them anything that happens within the family. And then they have to...
That's the first thing I'm going to say. This is why I'm here.
Because they also have to realize that you are the reason why I'm in therapy, know?
No, it's true. It's true. Generational trauma, as they say, that's even like that terminology, and like that's just coming of age, like now, like generational trauma. Like when you explain that to our families or our parents or whatever, they're like, what are you even talking about? Like they don't know kind of like what it is to do spirit work or shadow work, or really protecting your peace, to have that time to meditate, to have that time to be separate, to make the adult and mature decision to be like, hey, listen, I can't show up at this right now, but know that I'm there to support you. And doesn't mean I don't love you any different, or it doesn't mean that I think about you in a specific way. It's just I'm in a space right now where I need some time, and I need to take care of me, and this is how I need to go about it. And if you don't want to support that, then, I have to reevaluate my circle, or I have to reevaluate our relationship, because if our relationship is pure and our relationship is about supporting one another and loving one another and being there for one another as a family should be, then you need to respect that.
Right. Same thing goes with relationships as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And especially in your relationship too. It's because you trust and confide in that partner to be that support system for you, to love you unconditionally, and to just kind of just provide that safe space for you always to come home to, or to be around, or just to have fun with in general. So, and if they're not providing that for you, then you kind of need to reevaluate and just kind of just speak upon, like, hey, listen, I'm going through this right now. I'm feeling this from you, or I'm feeling this right now because of it. What can we do to fix it? Or is this something that you're feeling as well? Communication Absolutely. Is really key with anything, with friends, colleagues, and family members. And at the end of the day, you just got to protect your peace no matter what situation you're in.
Exactly, that part. So going back to therapy, on the episode that you were on, obviously you're an actress. You're the lead character in that episode. And obviously in that specific art, especially depending on how strong of a method actor or actress that you are, you like to delve deep into that character as much as you can, even if it's a complete opposite of how you were brought up. You strike me as the type of actress that actually went through something like that, so you were able to channel that character much more appropriately. What was your process like before going into it and actually reading the script, and before the director yells action?
It's funny because reading the script, I kind of felt like I was going through it because growing up, I had a family member that was like, "Oh, tú eres muy flaquita. Like, that means you're so like skinny.
Right.
Like, you need to eat more. You need to eat more." And then when I ate more, like, "Ay, tú eres un poquito gorda. Tú necesitas que parar. Like, you're getting a little chunky. You
There's
need to
no
stop
gray
a little
area.
bit." So there's no gray area. So that was like another channel for me too. It's just like whether I eat or whether I don't, you still gonna have a problem with me.
And then you realize, am I really trying to take care of myself, or am I supposed to be pleasing you?
Yes, and that's huge, because that kind of, as a kid, you kind of think like I need, and especially with like the Latino families, I need to make my family happy. I need to make my family proud of me. I need to bring power to my name, and that's the only thing that matters, right? Until you get older and you start realizing that it might be detrimental for your health, and it might not be the way to go sometimes, and it goes all back to protecting your peace. But I think when I was reading the script, I actually was going through something similar at that time.
Right.
Yeah, and I actually was in the process where I was trying to gain weight because I was losing weight. And I wasn't sure if it was like the whole stress from the pandemic or anything like that. But I always kind of was just like normally skinny too. So, but I was like, let me see, if I can kick it up a notch. I went to the gym and I did all these things. But I'm also like, I'm a Zumba instructor. I'm a dance instructor. I performed on the stage and I would travel a lot. So I was walking a lot too. So like, there was no way going about it. I was just losing. I was just burning calories every single day. And it was funny because in the actual, in the episode, I think she says something like, "Oh, like, and this new job, like being a post office worker, it's taking a lot of my body. I do not need to be walking 17 miles a day, So, and that, I kind of like related to that. I was like, yeah, no, I don't need to be doing like 3 fitness classes a day or 4 gigs a weekend. But you know what? I do it because I love it. And that's what it is.
And when you delve deep into a character like that, and even when the director yells cut, and but you still want to keep in that mind frame, when it's all said and done, and then you go to cut print, we're wrapped, so on and so forth. Is there any lingering after effects that come with you with the character that could stay with you for a certain amount of time until it's time for the next project?
I would say like the experience as a whole, like definitely stayed with me just because it was something that I was vulnerable with in the beginning, just because it was kind of a little bit close to home to me. And I did, like I said, I had family members like in the episode that were like, you don't need to be doing what you're doing right now. You need to be focusing on money. You need to be focusing on something else. Like, how are you going to quit your like security job for some little passion, which all goes to like what I do for a living. Like I left my 9 to 5 in like 2018 and I solely did professional work, and I've been doing, just dancing, acting, singing, dancing gigs, modeling as well, throughout that entire time. So, and my parents still are like, "Oh, well, you need to like drop that little dream of yours." Like, not, I wouldn't say like both my parents, but, or, drop that little dream. But I would say that like they definitely have those moments where it's just like, you need to drop that, you need to let all that go and stuff. So when I was in the process, like that's kind of like what I was channeling. And I was like, I've been through this situation before and I'm not going to let it break to me. I'm not going to let a character also become me too, because I am using my experiences to fuel into the character. And that's how I look at it. I don't fully become it because I know that it's not me at the end of the day, but it's a part of me that I can put into this person to create a more real experience for somebody else to relate to. Right. So when it's all said and done, that's something that I look back on and I was like, I was able to provide a little bit of experience to Christina, to her character, so that someone can relate to her as well. Like even the day of the premiere, I think someone had came up to me and said, "Thank you for portraying this character because I went through the same exact thing. And I went through the whole weight loss and the family support and family shaming me for like how I look and different things like that. So thank you for saying that." And I said, you got it, for sure. Like I know different people are going to go through different things. But at the end of the day, it comes to just protecting your peace and just getting away from that, knowing who you are and knowing that you can change and adapt to anything at any single moment and use your experiences as your fuel to keep you going so that you can succeed in anything that you would like to do.
Right. I love that. And, the whole mantra with you saying protect the peace. I mean, not only that do I love that, but I think you actually give me ideas for the title of this episode already.
There you go.
Yeah. So I guess also my next question would be is, I'm a little bit of a perfectionist.
Mm.
I feel like I also can be a bit of a nitpicker. I feel like if I don't do certain things right, especially when it comes to a creative thing like the podcast, whatever, I'm never going to be really fully satisfied. Do you ever have those moments where you're getting all the accolades in the world and everybody's proud of the job that you're doing, but in your own head you feel like you're your worst critic, and you feel like you could wish you can go back in time and fix this little thing just so it could be 100% perfect as opposed to 99.9%?
Oh, absolutely. I think I'm a little bit of a perfectionist as well. Like even I just had a recent project that I put out. It's a dance project. And I was like, we need effects here, and we need to do this, and we need to make it pop, and we need to like make this moment a thing, and we need to like, oh, well, maybe like it's like 2:59. Can we make it 3 minutes? Like it would be like little things like that, and and it's just like that does happen a lot. But I know I got to give myself grace with a lot of those things, and being a perfectionist does nothing to the spirit other than just kind of just leads you to an expectation that you don't even know if you're going to exceed or succeed. Mm-hmm. And then when if that doesn't happen, then that sets you up for disappointment as well. So I always say like expectations can lead you to suffering. So attachment leads you to suffering and that cold type of thing. So when I think about being perfectionist, I'm like, okay, I know there are a lot of things that are out of my control, but I'm going to make the best with what I got, and I'm going to make the best of the situation. And that doesn't come with just like editing a video or doing a choreography. Sometimes I might go back and look at a choreography that I created. I'm like, oh, but if I would have done this at that moment, that would have been better. But it was what it was for that moment, and it was supposed to be that at that moment too. Like it was created in that space and that mindset where that's where it was, and that's what was created. So be grateful for that. Be grateful that you had that experience. And I kind of just flipped that whole switch. Instead of just like thinking about all the things that I lack or all the things that could have been done, I just kind of just flipped the switch and be like, I'm happy that that worked out that way. And I'm happy that that came out the way it did, because I was really happy in that moment. And I was happy creating that at that moment. Whether I was singing, maybe it's like a singing choice that I could have done. Like that's what I felt at that moment. And I shouldn't like stray away from that, because that was real and that was in the present.
No, and you actually make a great point as far as that's concerned, because I've mentioned before on my show that I didn't start this podcast right away, and a lot of it's going back to me being a perfectionist. Like I felt like everything had to be 100% how I wanted to see fit, and I don't know what I did per se, but I basically had to trick my brain in a sense that everything's not perfect the way it is, but if you don't at least get your fucking foot in the door, it's not gonna happen. That's you want everything to fall into place, but you're not making an effort to take that first step to making it fall into place. So long story short, the trajectory that I went on is like I just decided to just do it, even though it's not perfect, even though it's not the way that I wanted to. And I'm actually glad that I took that approach after all, because everything is hindsight 2020. Because the way that I look at it now, if I decided to do it right then and there, where I felt like everything was just top notch, everything was the way they were supposed to be, there's a chance I could have stayed very stagnant, or I could have just been complacent. Yeah. And I realized in the process of this whole thing, and that's why I love this project even more, just from the passion aside, is that it's helped me in the sense that it's made me grow as a person, because as much as I try to elevate the show, I realized later on more than ever, and in hindsight, that I'm actually elevating myself as a person as well. Yeah. And now it's up to the point where like now I'm gaining a fan base where they're not only just enjoying me for my content, but they're enjoying me as a person. Yeah. So that's the thing that I take away more than anything. And listen, another thing that I also had to realize is that I'm in my late 30s. I'm about to be in my 40s soon, before you know it, because time goes fucking fast.
Like a day over 25.
I appreciate it. I ate a lot of soup as a kid. So
there you go. You got to hydrate skin. We're Latino too. We got good juice.
There you go. Yeah. But the point is that like I just finally realized that two things. One, I'm still pretty young. Not that old.
You are young.
Yeah. And two, maybe I just wasn't ready for it at the time that I thought I was. We all have these ideas, we all have these dreams and aspirations, but we're not really necessarily ready for the moment. It was just like when I used to do music back in the day, I realized that it didn't work out for me because I wasn't ready for the moment. And also I just realized that I wasn't passionate about it, because I would probably do a couple of projects here and there, but then afterwards I would get tired, or I'd just be like, I don't feel like doing it today, I'll do it tomorrow. This endeavor, I wish I could do it every fucking day. I'm always looking forward to doing it every day. I don't do it every day, but I do it more often than most. I'll give myself credit for that. And I just like, even on that time where I told you earlier today, when I took that month hiatus from my own project, I still couldn't stay away from the microphone. I still had to find a microphone on somebody else's platform and continue to do what I needed to do. So fuck it. At the age of 36, I finally found my passion. It's never too late.
Yeah, it is never too late. And like I think even when I was watching the Tonys, there was a Tony winner. I think he was 76 or so, and he got his first Tony Award. Nice. And he was just kind of explaining the whole thing, and he's been in the industry for a while as well. Right. You think of like the greats like Oprah and like how they were like 40 and 50s,
Yeah, same thing with I think the perfect example of that is Samuel L. Jackson, because he has been in the arts for a long time. He didn't really blow up until he was 42, I believe. I think it was with Pulp Fiction. And now he's the most bankable movie star of all time, and he's probably been in more projects than anybody else in Hollywood.
I know that's right.
So
it really isn't never too late.
There's a perfect example right there where it's never too lait, and you never know where you're going to ascend to.
Exactly.
Right.
And just to kind of go off of that as well, how you said oh, I lost my train of thought. But I think what I was going to say. Yes, how you picked it up at a later time. Oh, this is what I was going to say.
Okay.
That basically it's okay to be passionate about one thing at some point in your life and then completely passionate about something else like later. Like how you started, like beginning, you started music and now you couldn't stop picking up the microphone to do your podcast work.
Right.
Like it's completely okay. And I want to let the audience know that it's completely okay to fix or to recreate yourself. Should I say? Yes. Yeah. Recreate yourself and pick another passion that might work for you. Like we were just talking about, like maybe you started with the arts and now you're going to like social media and you love it. Or maybe you started with music and now you're going to podcasts and you love that. I started with musical theater. I had a 10-year career in musical theater and now I'm doing hip hop and choreography and visual like direction and like creative work. Out. Yeah, I'm branching out. And I think some people like to kind of hold like, oh, but you're like, what about this? Like, what about like, aren't you going to go back to that? Or aren't you going to do this? Or like, you think you're going to succeed in that, but what about all the work? I did all that work to prepare me for that moment. And this is exactly how you said, like, maybe you weren't ready for the moment, and it's about being ready for the moment. And I love that you said that, because I think a lot of us have that time in our lives that we kind of regret certain things, or maybe we'll look back to certain situations and be like, well, why didn't that work out? Or why didn't this happen? And we ask a lot of whys about the past. And you got to realize you weren't ready for it, or it wasn't the time, or that chapter or that season had ended and now you're in a whole new season. Let's look at that. Let's look at what you have at that moment and kind of recreate yourself from there and continue on with that momentum. And then the more you look at it that way, the more you can positively succeed in that aspect. So
absolutely.
Love that you said that, being ready for the moment, because I think that's super key.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, going back to everything that we've discussed so far, I mean, you've discussed choreography, you've discussed acting, you've discussed this, that, and the third, and so on and so forth. Is there anything else that's out there as far as arts go that you feel like you haven't tapped in yet, but is really gauging your interest?
We were just talking about voiceover. I was like, you know what? I would love to do voiceover. That sounds like it would be fun too. I always look at myself as a very like artistic being too. I think there's not one part of the arts world that I don't want to dabble into. Like I said, I originally started with plays when I was younger. And then I got into chorus and like singing in choirs. I did musical theater for like 10 years and I traveled and I co-directed different productions overseas and different things of that nature. And then the pandemic happened and then I got into working at studios, like dancing in several studios. I danced for the Studio Hoboken. I dance at Angelic Dance Studios. And I teach kids there, and then I teach adults in Hoboken. And then I also do choreography for artists, too. So artists for music videos or, like, different musicians, they'll book me to help them with choreography and their movement on screen or, like, on stage and things like that. So that was another lane for me, too, to kind of dive into. But I would love to do, like, major films. I would love to get into that. I would love to get into commercial work as well and just kind of just create that. I would love to create for it and be in front of the camera as well, like on kind of both sides of it, because I do love sharing. I love being with the camera and creating on camera, but I also love being on the other side and just kind of helping someone who might not know the direction or might not know what to do on film or on camera. And I like being like, I got you. you could do this, do that, do that. And I love helping people succeed too. Like teaching has been something that was new, that I picked up in the past few years, that ended up being a new love and a new passion for me. And I love educating and just being that person that can basically help you discover your superpower. Like that's my joy.
Right.
And I like to kind of keep that in mind. It's just like, make sure that you're always persisting your joy, and whatever you're doing makes you happy, because at the end of the day, you got yourself. Right. And you have to be able to provide a support system and love yourself in that way.
Who would you say is your biggest support system now?
Oh, man. Well, the woman in the mirror for sure. And it's been quite a journey, definitely building her into that space. I'm almost going to be 30 as well. So during my whole 20s, I definitely went through a time where like I did have like a low self-esteem and a low self-worth. And I think recreating myself from that and like kind of rising of the ashes, so to speak, was in my later 20s, where I kind of just like, you know what, I might not have support system. There were times where I was in relationships where they didn't support what I did at all, but I still kept on doing it because that was what was making me happy, you know? Mm-hmm. And, you know, I learned to realize that over walks of life and different times of my life, that I needed to be that support system for myself. It was my family too, not really kind of being invested into my career in the arts as well. Mm-hmm. So I was like, you know what, I have to be that person. And it all starts with you. Like once you create that person for yourself, then you can manifest partners that do the exact same thing, that are in the front row, that are recording you, that'll be like, yo, that's my girl, that's my man, look at it go. You know, and you have to be that person first. You have to be that person first. So definitely the woman in the mirror, definitely God, you know, like I always pray and I always kind of count on him, and I always wake up with gratitude and kind of just say, thank you for letting me breathe today. Thank you for letting me wake up, because it's important to always kind of just give that gratitude and thanks to the creator or whatever you believe in, you know, like even if you don't believe in God, always be grateful that you woke up with a breath, because, you know, there are people that didn't get the chance to wake up today, didn't get a chance to film a podcast, didn't get a chance to be a guest on the podcast, you know?
Yeah. It's definitely a lockstep with I was you know, doing behind the scenes work on another podcast yesterday on Therapy Without a Degree, and the guest, Mike, I believe his name was, he said something along the lines that really resonated with me, where it was like, it sounded like a cliche thing, but it rang so true. What he basically said was, we live every day, but we die once. Mm-hmm. So, you know, that's pretty much self-explanatory there. There's nothing, that's like a mic to drop moment, right? Drop the mic moment type of thing right there.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, we do live every day.
Yeah, for anybody that's aspiring to do all the things that you do, and they feel like they may be stuck in a creative rut or whatever, what kind of advice would you give to those people?
Take your time. Take your time. There is no rush and there is no race. And I know a lot of times, especially with like social media and different things like that, that can make us feel very overwhelmed, and it can make us feel very rushed, and it can make us feel like we're not doing enough, especially when it comes in algorithms and it comes like, oh, this choreographer's doing this and this person's doing that and this person's doing that. And remember, they're only highlights. And they're only reels, and that's why they're called highlights and reels. Right. Otherwise, then they'd have a section for despair and trials and tribulations. You know, how many views and how many people would post in that area? You know, you got to think about it that way. So definitely give yourself grace, give yourself time. I would say as well, like it takes 10,000 hours to master a skill. So you're not going to be a millionaire. You're not going to be a viral superstar. Or you're not going to be a master educator or a master trainer or pop star, whatever you want to be overnight, you know, podcast superstar overnight. It takes these times, and then you have to give yourself grace, and you have to keep going. You have to be consistent as well. Doesn't mean overwork yourself to the ground, but you have to stay laser focused on your goal. You have to want it every day. You have to be able to be in those spaces and create an environment that is supporting, and create an environment that you can see it when you wake up. You can visualize it. You say it, you affirm it every day, like as if you already have it almost. Don't think about like, oh, I want this so bad. Don't come from a place of desire and want and lack, but come from a place where like, I already have this. It's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time of when I'm going to actually receive it and have it be tangible it's a matter of time. So give yourself grace, be consistent, take a step back, breathe, and just honor the moment that you're in, because you're going to be ready for the moment when it's happening, when you do those things.
Would this be the same advice that you would go back and tell the 10-year-old self as well?
Oh, yes, girl. Yes, girl. Take your time. Never stop being you. And just keep on going no matter what. You're going to have a lot of those people, a lot of those naysayers that are not going to believe in you. And you're going to have a lot of those experiences that are going to challenge you and trust your faith. They're going to test your faith. Test your faith, as I should say.
Faith and face, actually.
Yeah, test your face and your faith, because, you know, like, especially as an actress and a dancer and stuff, you got to work with your facials too. So you got to train those muscles too to be able to be on camera and do silly things and fun things. But yes, there's going to be a lot of experiences that are going to test your faith and that are going to see if you really do want what you really want.
Right.
And there's going to be a lot of moments that are going to stray you away from that. People are going to stray you away from that. And experiences are going to stray you away from that. But at the end of the day, you have a goal. Go for it. And just keep that laser focus. And you'll get to where you want to be. It's just a matter of time.
Right. For any people out there that are interested in your story, or as we've all discovered here, are there any pieces of media out there that people consume, can watch, can listen to, whatever that, you know, involves you? Is there any pieces of media out there that you're involved in that people can check out that you recommend to see more in depth who actually Susan Ramirez is?
Sure, absolutely. So I would firstly recommend following my Instagram. It's IAM_Susan_Ramirez. I have a link in the bio that is linked to the Next Level Experience, which was created by Abdul Rahim Jackson. Shout out to you. And he created actually a platform that doesn't get lost in the algorithm, because sometimes, you know, we'll put some stuff on YouTube or Instagram and we don't get to see them until days later, or sometimes we don't even get to see them at all.
Right.
So he created a platform that you can go to and, we're putting out a video. It's going to be here. Don't you worry. It's not going to get lost anywhere. It's going to be predicted there. So that actually link has a performance that my boyfriend and I are performing at Nork Dances on October 1st. So it'll actually be the first time that we're performing together in a live stage since the pandemic. And first in general that we're performing at all. So yeah. Right. So that's going to be super fun. So check us out at Nork Dances at I always forget how to say that part.
It's in the profile.
It's in the profile. It's in the profile. But yes, you can go to Nork Dance's Instagram as well. That's a performance that we have coming up on October 1st. And the link in my bio is the dance that we did in the creative, the visual to the performance as well. I also have a YouTube channel. You can look it up under Susan Ramirez. So you see the ombre sunglasses, you see the curly hair, you see the glittery shirt. That's me. And yeah, but I would say I'm most active on YouTube and Instagram. So definitely if you want to see me on a day-to-day or a daily basis, you can follow the Instagram. And if you want to be tapped into my projects for creativity, for choreography, or anything, so to speak, maybe have some singing things coming in the works, then you can follow my YouTube as well. And be sure to like, subscribe, and comment on all the fun projects that I got to do in the past.
And let's not forget Therapy Without a Degree.
And Therapy Without a Degree, episode number 3. And there's going to be a lot of different episodes coming out as well. I'm very, very proud of that project and everything that Joe has created. Shout out to Joe. Shout out to Zane. And yeah, I'm so excited.
Awesome. Well, I had a good time. I hope you enjoyed yourself as well.
Yes, I did. I had a wonderful time. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Now, we're about to close out this episode in a little bit. Before we go, I just have one more question that I ask everybody that comes onto my show. Just to end things on a positive note, having fun. And, you know, you being a movie person as well, maybe you'll appreciate this as well. Okay. So, you, Susan Ramirez, if they were to make a movie on your life, which actress would you like to see portray your character?
Oh, my goodness.
And just to help you out, you know, they don't have to look like you. They don't have to sound like you. It's just somebody that you admire and you feel that they could portray your character to the best of their ability.
Oh, man. I think the first person that comes to my mind is Liza Koshy.
And who's that?
She is, she started off as like an influencer, and now she's like, I think she started off with like Vine and TikTok and YouTube as well. And she grew into a viral and global sensation. And she actually was a judge on a dance show with Shakira, something that Shakira produced along with Nick Jonas. And she got into some Netflix films as well. I just feel like she has like a personality that's so like quirky and admirable. And like she like started, like I remember when I first tapped into like her persona, like she would be in her car and she would be singing to these songs and she'd be making all these faces. And I'm like, yo, that's me in my car. Like that's literally me in my car, just like jamming and making faces and creating whole moments and just like kind of just being dramatic with everything. And then she's also a beast dancer. And she's got a similar like athletic and body type as me too. Okay. So like I can see myself in her, like almost like a reflection. And she just seems like a bright spirit. I don't know her in person, but maybe it would be awesome to work together one day. So
there you go.
Maybe,
just
maybe.
Manifest it.
Manifest it. We plug it in to Liza Koshy.
There you go, to Liza Koshy. There we go. Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for this episode of First Class, Second Place. I want to thank my guest again, Susan Ramirez, for coming through here. I really appreciate it. Had a lot of fun. Is anybody you want to give a shout out to before we close out?
Just shout out to you all watching at home, and shout out to North Dances for creating this platform for performing. Shout out to you, Jason, for just having us here at First Class, Second Place. I can't even read. But yes, and shout out to Joe.
Yeah, you're not the first person to mess up the name, and I'm pretty sure you're not going to be the last either.
You know what it is? I was looking at the ace on the bottom, and I was like, was like my mom. Yeah. Well, yeah.
Don't look at the ass and don't look at the ace.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I was like, ass ace. No.
Oh my God! Watch that become a meme in this day and age.
First ass, second pace.
Oh God! All right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And once again, where can they find you on social media? One more time.
Yes, you can follow me on Instagram at Iam_Susan_Ramirez. Follow me on YouTube. You can subscribe to Susan Ramirez. And that's most of my pretty active profiles at the moment. Okay. So yeah, tap into the journey. You'll see some cool stuff.
There you go. Love it. And ladies and gentlemen, you can find me at Enrique _ on Instagram and Twitter. And don't forget to follow the First Class Second Place podcast page on Instagram as well. This has been the First Class Second Place podcast. We out.